This is Jeremy Zorn with the Race Trader, summarizing the September 2nd TRT report. As always, it's the greatest pleasure to be here to summarize the world race market for our clients, to give a view of what's going on, and just to show the very key activities happening in this very volatile and wild market. I guess I'd start out by just reiterating the comments last week. Of course, Bulog is putting out a tender for 350,000 tons. They're listed by country, but they'll take it from anywhere, I would guess, especially as you're seeing such high offers in places like Thailand. But Viet prices have dropped significantly this week, so Viet probably is in play. Definitely Pakistan has dropped and is in play as well. So that the traders really been focused on that. It's a leg week until next week comes. A lot of positioning, a lot of movement in the prices. We had calls from people trading Thai rice all the way down to 585, and it ended the week unchanged at 570, maybe even 570, 580 for nearby shipment, but definitely October shipments much lower. So a wild week. I mean, everybody's positioning. Do we want to sell Bulog? What's going to happen? And of course, this is in the backdrop of the most important thing, which is the Indian crop and the Indian ban. The crop, to start with, it is huge, and I mean huge. 145 million is not out of the question. We said it in the right share for the last few weeks. I would watch this closely. The Indian government is very likely going to have to deal with this. They, of course, did do 2 to 3 million tons of brokens into the ethanol type market. And this type of thing will continue. The real issue, as I've said to many of our clients who called and asked, it's not what the tax is going to be. It's not the price that come out, which is probably around 500. How much are you going to have to shift price to do another 8 million tons of rice shipments just to stop the increase? 8 to 10 to stop the increase with consumption more towards 136, 135. You have to sell a lot more than you have. I mean, again, the stocks alone, you have to bring them down. You have to go way higher. I mean, you already had such a adding to the stocks of the current crops. So actually, consumption is lower than that even. So it's really an issue for India with this huge crop coming off. That being said, we do hear the ban will very likely end. We had heard somewhere in the mid-September for the Q4 is very likely, although it could change due to government shifts, but the monsoon took a runoff at the end and now 7% ahead. So very likely, huge stocks, huge FCI stocks, so much that they don't show the FCI stocks, which was always on a beautiful website. You could easily see wheat and rice stocks, and now it's not so clear to the rest of us. So what's happening? The market's getting ready for a big crash. We all know the big crash is coming. How do you book in demand? Not be too low so you can still cover, and make a transition from old crop to new crop. So it's a very complicated, very complicated situation as you move forward. I mean, a lot will come out next week, of course, as we look at this market, what happens, and who knows what Bulog will do. They don't need to buy that much more. They say they need to buy another 900,000 to the end of the year. New crop, new year, they're looking down less than 1.5 million. So a lot of it is politics, some weird interaction. For sure, they could use some good consulting on these tenders. They're coming too quick, they're coming too erratic, and they're too public. There's so many different things that they could do and probably get cheaper prices. So putting those two things behind it, there is other things going on, Thailand, Myanmar, a lot of positioning, but those are the real key factors. And I would say also the grain prices are very low. Oil has gone below 75. It's 74-ish and change today. And you do have a very much of a shifting dynamic going on. Some of these are the same, like, the Philippines is going to buy 5 million tons. They're going to be the biggest buyer by far. Very key. China is buying very little and exporting more than they're buying. Another key factor barely talked about, the shift in China from the number 1 to 2 importer to just being a relatively large exporter and thin importer. Africa is slowing down significantly with the cheap price of corn and other things to feed, and cheaper calorie items than rice. Definitely other options, and we're going to have to fall pretty far to compete for that demand, to get some more demand for rice. It's not going to be simple or easy in the least bit. So, it's a wild year, a wild market politically. The U.S. election is wild. Trump's assassination, Biden dropping out, Harris picking someone very on the liberal side, Trump being ahead, Trump not being ahead. Many people are saying Harris could win. Now Trump could win. A lot of action happening overall. It's very important for all world trade policy, all those interested in carbon credits. Trade policy and the movement of grain will definitely happen more under Trump. It'll be more of an environmental world and farm bill if Harris wins, which might be the sticking piece that keeps her away from winning because people don't want to have more regulation in the US and such. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens when we move forth. So I'll call this week a transitionary week. There's a lot of transitionary items to go to the Bulag tender while the Philippines and Africa is waiting. Philippines still have to buy because they need so much, but it's really hand to mouth. They're trying not to buy. They're buying maybe for their October shipments, but not making big purchases just because they see prices going down dramatically, $100 a ton, really. And so there's a lot of hand to mouth and a bit of a slowing demand, in my view, from what the trade is saying as well. But dichotomous views of price. I mean, like I said, one of the weirdest weeks, in price alone. I mean, we have India down to 520, but Viet fell $30 a ton after very strong quotes. Went down to 555 for the new crop, and probably lower than that. 550 is probably the real answer. While Pakistan's at 530, 535. Just very low numbers as we get ready for this tender. And I would not be surprised for Bulag to push very similar prices as last tender, 525, 530, which will keep a lot of players out. The players in Thailand were talking about how they can't trade right now. The market's shut down. We might as well leave, and you're seeing USDA put out a grains. They only have Thailand exporting 7.5 million tons next year. So they're definitely seeing some downward trend in the trade in Thailand on this, people less interested in just going that direction. So a lot happening, definitely. We do have some special reports this week, one on Myanmar, and of course we do our monthly updates on several countries. Pakistan, India have been done recently, and just I would look at that. Lastly, I would just invite you to the World Rice Conference. It's going to be amazing. We've had many, many distinguished guests. We're hopeful the president of the Philippines will be able to drive down just to the city and come together open, like's been indicated. We have support from players throughout the world, associations throughout the world. I have belief this could be the largest gathering in history for us. A lot of interest and support, especially as we move forward in such a high demand year from the Philippines. With that, I think we summarized the market very, very well. I pray that all is well with those who are our clients. Definitely give us referrals. We know our publication is by far the best in the world. And we would like everybody in the trade to get it because an informed trader is a profitable trader. And I just know that while there might be chipper, less quality items out there, the full TRT report is showing value by vessels, showing value with prices, showing value with special reports in various markets, prices. And I just believe any trader that the small cost that $10,000 to $20,000 for a report that helps with information is just such a helpful push towards managing risk. I would suggest to any troop. So with that, this is Jeremy with Race Trader signing out. Look forward to talking to you next week.